Good evening. Hare Krishna and Happy New Year. And what I've been saying, happy, blessed, spiritually advanced New Year. Spiritual warriors, welcome. 2010. I think I was trying to recall a World's Fair I went to. I just found a picture. 1939 World's Fair. I must have been in New York because that's where I live. And the only thing I vaguely remember was highways, and maybe they mentioned the year 2000, but you know, in 1939, if I had heard 2000, it was like forever. And here I am, and here we are, 2010. Welcome to Spiritual Warriorship. We're beginning a new spiritual warrior book. Those who have been with me, I believe I had said I wanted to start on a reflections book because we have 6 reflection books now. But I have also said that we have 6 spiritual warrior books. And I have endeavored to give some of the nectar from each of them, and I realized I had not touched Spiritual Warrior 6. So I'm going to venture with that tonight. Spiritual Warrior 6. Beyond fanaticism, terrorism, and war. Discover the peace solution. So that's quite a bit, isn't it? Quite a title. And I've been praying for guidance of how, and I want to say how or what to do with this, but I also know whenever I'd get like this, I could hear Gurudev saying, just read what I have there. And that's what I want to do. But I don't know if there are new spiritual warrior ventures out there or some of the regulars, but I want to just review what we've said. Bhaktitirtha Swami, because this is the books we're reading, Bhaktitirtha Swami Spiritual Warrior series books. But he's given us this statement that spiritual warriors are unconventional. We do not fight with conventional weapons. And we do not fight on conventional battlegrounds. And we do not fight for conventional objectives. A true spiritual warrior strives to master the weapons, not conventional weapons, but the weapons of love, humility, compassion, faith, and self-knowledge. Those are our weapons. We also say that we don't fight on conventional battlegrounds. What is our battleground? Our battleground is human consciousness. And there we wage war against ignorance and lust and whatever is pervading human society. Really like an occupying army. And we do not fight for conventional objectives. What is our objective as spiritual warriors? Our objective is a civilization where people care for each other and live in harmony and are in harmony with each other and with God. So how do we do this now? We endeavor to develop ourselves first and ourselves, and then we share that knowledge and understanding that we have with others. And then we give them the tools to help them develop and know themselves and experience the truth of themselves. So spiritual warriorship is really exciting as we move along. But Bhaktivedanta Swami also tells us and reminds us that the path of a spiritual warrior is not an easy path. It demands courage, determination, discipline, intense compassion, and unconditional love. And it requires an understanding that this world is not the final chapter. This world is not our home. So we're on a mission. And I hope all of you out there are ready to join this transcendental army. So we're going to begin tonight with this Spiritual Warrior 6. Now, if I've told you before, if you don't have any of the Spiritual Warrior books, you can get them at Krishna.com store. And I decided I would just share the chapters in this book. Now, usually when I start a book, I don't go through every chapter. But I felt like I wanted to whet your appetite with what's in this book, and maybe you'll get it. It would be great if we could work through this together. Chapter 1, the phenomenon of evil. Chapter 2, why do we suffer? Chapter 3, heaven and religious fanaticism. Chapter 4, different conceptions of religion. Chapter 5, spiritual response to terrorism. Chapter 6, the positive and negative effects of war. Chapter 7, vegetarianism as an aid to the elimination of violence. Chapter 8, stop letting so-called differences create war. And Chapter 9, a few extraordinary people can save civilization. And that's probably you wonderful souls out there. All right, we're going to get started in this chapter. Chapter 1, the phenomenon of evil. And as I say, this is a wonderful book, and I hope you will all get a copy of it, and we can follow together, okay? What is evil? When we hear the word evil, many images come to our minds. For instance, we might think of the terrorist attacks in America on September 11th that took almost 3,000 lives. We might think of a serial killer who heinously kills dozens of people. Sometimes we think of a child abuser preying on innocent children, or the death camps in former Yugoslavia. And he goes on with a number of things that happened. He mentions, people starving in Ethiopia, Adolf Hitler and Idi Amin. Just to mention a few, he even mentions Joseph Stalin. Different things that happen in the world, the millions of American Indians that were killed by settlers, and the millions of African American slaves brought to the West who died. All of this going on. So he says, as we reflect on all of this, we might wonder how God can be all merciful when we see such devastating events. Is there a devil who makes people commit these vicious acts of violence? Are people just trying to find some scapegoat as they express their animalistic tendencies? Is the demonic superior to the divine? We now see more sinful activities becoming a part of the normal structure of society, and people are accepting them. If we examine most communities in the world, we will find that the negative is increasingly dominating over the activities of liberation. Have the soldiers of righteousness lost their battle? And should they surrender to more kinds of incarceration? The author says, let us examine some of these questions. We want to address the phenomenon of evil because we can understand more about the phenomenon of goodness, righteousness, and divinity by recognizing its opposite. This understanding will also help us to recognize how evil creeps in and contaminates our consciousness. He says the propensity for evil, the next section, the propensity of evil within us. We all have a lower self and a higher self. The Vedic scriptures tell us that there was a time when evil and righteousness could not exist within the same universe. Later, there was a time when evil and righteousness not only existed within the same universe, but within the same planet. As humankind moved further away from the original spiritual culture created by God and moved closer to excessive pursuits of commodities and materialism, then evil and righteousness began to coexist powerfully, even within the same individual. This means that there is a godly and a demonic side to each of us at this state of evolution. We've gone through that when we've experienced, or you've heard somebody say, I really know I shouldn't do that or shouldn't have done that. And there was something telling me, but this got the better of me. So that proves what he's saying. When we find one polarity in the material world, we will always find its opposite. We reside in the realm of relativity and duality. The Native American Indians believed that we all have two dogs fighting inside of us. Probably heard that story. One bad and one good. When asked which one wins the fight, they affirm that the one who gets fed the most wins. The aspect of ourselves to which we give the most energy will dominate and defeat the other. Don't think that there's just the devil outside, because the propensity for evil is within. It is not that there is only one devil. There are many devils. It's not that there's one type of sin. There are many types of sin and different combinations of sinful activities. There are divine, pious entities as well as highly empowered negative beings. There are extraterrestrial beings from other realms who are godly and others who are devilish. If we read the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, or the Vedas, we will find that all of these scriptures tell us about extraordinary personalities and demonic entities of different calibers. As we build our spiritual strength and understand more about our real identity, that's the knowledge we talked about. We have to have that knowledge. We will have greater protection from those influences that are negative. I'm going to move on to the section he calls a culture-less society. Basically, listen, our current society lacks healthy culture. And I'm sure that sentence is not a shock to any of you. The more the world becomes materialistic, individualistic, and egocentric, the more we continue to obscure a sense of wholesome culture. Real culture is an expression of humankind's pursuit for higher goals. And it involves the activities we engage in during that pursuit. Therefore, any culture which is not a culture of liberation becomes a culture of stagnation. In much of the modern world, we do not have a healthy culture. We have forgotten how to respect parents and elders. We have lost our fear and reverence towards God. We have lost our understanding of how to contact angels, demigods, etc. We have lost our ability to perform yagnas or sacrifices that have the potency to bring divine intervention. We normally do not practice rites of passages. With the loss of our healthy culture, we have instead turned to money, prestige, and commodities as a substitute.
Can you read?
We are now accepting transitory pleasures in our search for that substantive lifestyle. And just reading this section of the things we've lost, and he mentioned rites of passage, my mind and my heart go back to Bhakti Tirtha Swami, whose words we're hearing tonight. And what he was brought to us as we were under his care. At Gitanagari, where he was established, and I lived for 5 years, he mentions we normally do not practice samskars or rites of passage. With him there, I thought every temple, everywhere, did these rites of passage. We had a ceremony. Well, of course, the wedding ceremony we would have. There was a ceremony. He took us through the ritual of before preparing to have children. When the child was born, we had that ceremony with the astrologer and everything. We had a ceremony for the first grain. We had the ceremony for first going to school. This was the community he was establishing for us, and prayerfully for ISKCON, to be able to have these rites of passage to recognize, have the community all together for each process in life. Yes, he gave us a lot. And that's why reading these books, I'm really feel privileged to be able to be sharing with you and having my memories and praying what more I can do to serve him and bring forth this. He goes on. Wholesome culture helps us express our personalities and individual creativity to our highest potential. We ultimately access healthy culture through spirituality. Although we have a material body, if we know how to access our higher nature, we can become metaphysically endowed with and spiritually competent. If we look particularly at wholesome ancient cultures, we will normally find a spiritual nucleus. Spiritual. And what does that mean, spiritual? Knowing who you are, who God is, what your relationship is with him, and serving him. There existed a conception of motherhood and fatherhood that allowed a communal or extended family situation to exist. However, we have now lost the understanding of how to function side by side with each other in the march towards liberation. It's not just a matter of reform, which basically means replacing one material system with another. It's not a matter of replacing one nation with another or one race with another. Liberation is a matter of understanding our purpose here. Why am I here? What is that song? Why am I living? What is my purpose? We are all in this particular universe because we have work to do. That work will bring us back to a state of consciousness in which we are free of limitations and where we can reside in the higher realms spoken about in all major religious systems. We are all working to find ways to function in a world that is hostile toward our basic existence. But there are ways to reach a higher state of evolution. We can reach that goal through the culture of spirituality, which will bring out more of the natural quality of the soul. And that's who we really are. And that soul wants to express itself. Spiritual warfare is the science of creating and invoking auspiciousness. Anyone involved in spiritual warriorship understands that it's not just a matter of what you do, but it's also a matter of being sensitive to others' needs, perception, and activities. It's not just a matter of living as an island, but it is a matter of understanding what aggregates to make up our environment. he takes us to, let me just finish this. There's an attempt throughout the planet to take away healthy culture, theism, and people's ability to realize that they actually have a future. The nonsense that's going on, people think there's nothing more but just for them to do what they want to do and whatever it's doing to them. But there is, actually we have a future. It is manifesting in gross and subtle attempts to lead people more into a culture of confusion. It is allowing people to involve themselves in activities detrimental to individual and collective growth. People are involving themselves with great eagerness without understanding that they are involved in activities of spiritual suicide. What a phrase, spiritual suicide. So what does he take us to next? Develop inner strength. If you've been following these readings and discourses, he always comes to the point to take us within. We must go within. The author states, some of the greatest problems are problems that we have to deal with inside ourselves. And I remember which book we were reading it, and he clarifies, we cannot look outside and point fingers if it's not going right or going the way we want. We must look inside ourselves. He says they involve raising our own consciousness. That's the problems. Some of the greatest problems are problems that we have to deal with inside ourselves. They involve raising our consciousness. If I allow you to excessively bother my mentality, if I allow you to excessively bother me mentally, it means that my own consciousness is low. Otherwise, your actions or words could not disturb my mind. You know, I remember in reading Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, and where Krishna is giving it to Arjuna, right? He's telling him about the soul. And it comes to the, it can't be shot, it can't be drowned, it can't be, the whole thing. And what I found, I started adding to that, it can't get hurt feelings either. So if I got hurt feelings, then I wasn't really in touch with my soul, how I worked through that. And believe me, there were many instances when I had some hurt feelings in the beginning. But what I came to understand, if I had those hurt feelings, then I was still in the bodily concept. And I was definitely desiring to move into a higher consciousness. So he says, otherwise your actions or words could not disturb my mind. Whatever your position may be, if you bother me, it's because I stand on insecure ground. Think about that. Who's bothered you recently? Who you been saying? It's all your fault. We're talking about spirituality, being strong, having strength, spiritual strength. We must avoid a mood of always seeing others as the full problem. We must avoid letting people's nonsense turn us into nonsense. If we fall prey to weakness, it is because we do not have sufficient strength. There's a chapter in I think it's chapter Spiritual Warrior number 3, about how to strengthen ourselves. I remember reading that somewhere. Fantastic. And again in that I remember there was a section where he took us, we had to go within. He continues, if we have determination, we can make a difference by raising better families, addressing our own situations, and looking at our own consciousness. The mind can be the greatest enemy of any person, but a mind harnessed for higher achievements and for knowledge of spiritual truths cannot be held down. He gives us a quote from Bhagavad Gita 6, chapter 6, text 5. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is a friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text 5. Sometimes when you hear these, if you have time, you go and read the full text and purport of Prabhupada and see what the gist is, because there's something for all of us in every book, and the Bhagavad Gita is our book, isn't it? He goes on, we are getting help from higher beings in the universe, but there's also a tremendous influx of influence from lower entities. These lower entities are constantly devising new ways to pollute our minds. For instance, the lyrics of songs are infused with such negativity that they can make people suicidal. Don't think that these are just accidents. Even the movies and the subliminal influence in advertising assist in bringing humankind to a state in which they are ready for any kind of support, even if it's completely demonic. Many of the topics that we are discussing in this Spiritual Warrior series will determine how many people will survive in the 21st century. Many things that currently give us a sense of security will not always be so accessible. People will break down economically, sound familiar? Socially and psychologically, if they do not find a way to fortify themselves and understand more about the sources and manifestations of evil. You've got to know the enemy. If a soldier goes out to fight and does not know the location of the enemy, he or she will end up fighting in the dark while the enemy laughs and waits to launch an attack. We don't want to fight and waste energy in the dark. We want to know what we have to deal with and then deal with it so we can be victorious. Evil activities often give us immediate rewards and stimulation in a flamboyant or intoxicating way, but they later produce all types of problems. Divine ambitions might begin with a struggle or some investment in austerity, but they ultimately produce genuine and lasting results. So if you're on the spiritual path, and we've been told the spiritual path is not an easy path, that it demands courage and determination, discipline. So you don't give up. You keep battling. It's the war we're on, really. That's why we need strong spiritual warriors. He gives us another quote from Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 18, text 37 and 38. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects, and which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be in the nature of passion. Cheaters want the results without paying the price. Manipulators and crooks want to get as much as they can without paying any price. And they even want to take what belongs to others. When we pursue life as cheaters, we might get quick solutions, but they will only be cosmetic, as inauspiciousness will inevitably catch up with us. He tells us a story here that maybe some of you know. You read any of the Vedic literatures. It's called A Change of Heart. By looking at the life of Valmiki Muni, who authored the great epic known as the Ramayana, we can easily recognize the detrimental effects of sin and evil. And that's what he's trying to show us through this. As he said, if you don't pay attention or alert to what the evil is, how are you going to be able to make sure you're getting out of that so you can pull in the good? Valmiki had once been a hunter named Ratnakara, who lived in the forest and maintained his family by robbing and even killing travelers as they passed through the woods. He would bring the bounties home for his family daily and just go out again. One day, he came across a saintly person known as Narada Muni and prepared to viciously attack the saint. However, when Ratnakara told the saint to give him all his wealth, Narada remained equiposed and undisturbed. He then asked the hunter, "You're robbing to maintain your family, but don't you realize that you will have to suffer the consequences due to karma? Every action produces a corresponding reaction." Narada continued by asking, "Will your family members who share the wealth that you earn also share the sins you are earning as well?" The rogue had never thought of the matter in that way and decided to approach his family. After all, he had to take the responsibility for all his activities. He at least wanted to spread the karma between those for whom he stole. So he went home and asked his wife and family and his children, "Every day I rob travelers and I bring back all kinds of wealth, property, jewels, and money. I have given so much opulence to all of you. A saint asked me today, and informed me that I will have to be accountable for all my crimes. I want to know if you are willing to share some of the burden that I will have to accept. What do you think their answer was? Both the wife and the children refused, replying, "You have decided to maintain us in this way. We never asked you to commit sins for the purpose of maintaining us. You will have to bear the consequences alone." And this is a good example of, your friend says, "We can do this and nobody will know," and blah, blah, blah. You're still a part of it. You're still a part of it. Be careful. The father had imposed his lifestyle on the family without really being a loving and genuine father. In complete devastation, he left and ran out to find the saints. He realized how much he had been preoccupied in sinful activities, even though they produced some immediate results. The long-term results were not worth the short-term pleasures. Okay, this chapter is nearly done. I'm going to finish. I think we can do that before I ask for comments or questions. Listen to the title of the next section. Combat evil with love and righteousness. Author states, love extinguishes evil. The more that we understand what we can attain through righteousness and purity, the more we will want to escape ignorance and confusion by running toward higher goals. Understanding, the more we understand we can attain what we can attain through righteousness and purity, the more we will want to escape ignorance and confusion by running towards higher goals. If we have sufficient love, we will have sufficient protection. Don't think that love is just some lusty drama portrayed on soap operas. Love is the greatest weapon that we will ever have. However, many of the most evil attacks confuse the world's citizens about the actual meaning of love. People live together for years in a so-called romantic relationship without ever having a chance to express any genuine symptoms of love towards each other. It is all a matter of utilitarianism. People come together in order to find an extension to their own sense gratification. For this reason, we also see an increase in incest. People just do not know what love means. In some cases, when a person gets raped, she might explain the situation by saying that the man made love with her. The rapist didn't make love. He made war. So many people equate love with sex. Consequently, they're missing the chance to enjoy life on a higher level and become the divine personality that they are meant to be. If you haven't read Spiritual Warrior 2, Transforming Lust into Love, do try to get a copy. The first chapter in the newest edition is the School of Love. And the first paragraph, he tells us, the soul is made for love. And then he goes on from there. Wonderful, wonderful. I wish we could do it again. But it's good to understand. Keep in mind that we have a lower self and a higher self. Meaning that each person has within themselves a godly and demonic aspect. Some of those things that influence or stimulate the lower self are relative and temporary. They come to us fast, but we have no sense of permanence and allow us to think life revolves solely around the satisfaction of the senses. They cause us to minimize family, community, or gender. They cause us to put one religion, tribe, gender, or race against another. All of these mentalities are part of the culture of destruction and evil. Real strength develops from love. We want to appreciate the real power. We want to appreciate that the real power comes from love and wisdom, not from data or information processing. However, we have to become natural to acquire that wisdom. Since we involve ourselves in so many superfluous things, we have forgotten how to be natural. We have to begin to work on ourselves by acting naturally, because such actions will automatically bring about auspiciousness and will connect us with the higher realms. The author states, we encourage you to pursue more wholesome cultural investigations as you go deeper into philosophy, religion, and spirituality. You will begin to come to certain universal conclusions. Any person who honestly makes a deep investigation into any science will begin to arrive at similar conclusions.
Yes.
It is only those stuck at a superficial level who resort to sectarianism. Religion against religion stems from that kind of consideration. However, people who develop a deeper understanding will be able to maintain their sense of individuality, but at the same time appreciate the pursuits of other people. When they see a difference, it will help them become more inspired to take their own path seriously. Remember, none of us are residents of this place. The bodies we have are simply costumes given to us according to our state of evolution. People from authentic spiritual cultures who have actual wisdom understand that there are higher aspects of existence which can help us become more aware of the past and able to even touch into the future. We should not cheat ourselves by accepting limitations. Let us not get caught up in other types of relativities. and other in-groups and out-groups. Let us get involved in higher consciousness as we move on and march as spiritual warriors committed to producing a better planet. If we maintain weapons of love and compassion, evil will be disappointed at every turn. And, thank you. That's my technique. So, my dear spiritual warriors, that concludes the chapter. I didn't think I would get through, but I hope it's been helpful, and we can now take any comments, questions, or Harry Poe. Who's out there?
Bhuvan Mohan.
Hi, Bhuvan Mohan. Welcome.
Bhakti Carol.
And back, all right.
Bhakti Jennifer.
Jennifer, you made it. Welcome.
Manjesh was online.
Oh, Manjesh from Canada, I think, huh?
And Patrick was online.
Okay.
And Catherine. Someone named Catherine.
Okay. Any questions? Any comments? No? Okay. You're all ready to battle the evil within and without, and to work on your spirituality and your higher consciousness. If you're coming to this this website, and it's showing that you are definitely on a path. And all Bhakti Tirtha Swami is doing is just trying to clear it up for us and bring it. So maybe next week we'll go into why do we suffer. Would you like that? As I said, there's so much in this book, and I don't plan to go through the whole book online, but we shall see what Gurudev and Krishna has. So if there are no questions, no comments, I will say thank you for being there. And you know, spiritual warriorship is a wonderful path to be on, and we've been giving that the qualities. So continue, have a wonderful week, and see how any of this you can put into your life and share with others to help bring about this change as he's talking about.
Bhakti Carol says this was a wonderful class. Bhuvan Mohan says Hare Krishna, Mother and Johnny. Bhakti Jennifer says thank you, Mother. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all for being there. And if you don't have the book, do try to get it. It's a fantastic book. And for those of you who may be listening and didn't come in the chat room, thank you for being there. And have a wonderful, wonderful, blessed week. Hare Krishna.
Oh, there's a question.
There's a question? Okay. Before you click me off.
The question is, what weapons of love can we use regularly to use?
Love is a weapon. So, what weapons of love
can we use regularly?
I'm not sure what weapons of love. As we've been told, love is a weapon that we use to fight the ignorance that's out there and the frustration. And how do we get to that love? We know who we are. Again, it comes to that basic knowledge, knowing who you are, a spiritual being, eternal spiritual being, part and parcel of the Supreme. If you're part and parcel of the Supreme, then you are made of love, with love, for love, and it's sharing that love with others. That's the weapon. Does that help? Who asked that question?
The person is CCY.
Where are you, TCY? What's your location? I like to know location.
I guess they'll answer it, but I get to elaborate more on the question they asked, what weapons of love can we use regularly that affects our interactions, or in which way do we show love? Spiritual love.
Know you're a spiritual being. Know that you are an eternal spiritual being. And that's love in action. Because that spiritual part, it's made for love, to give love and receive love. And as you give love, you will be reciprocated. I'm trying to get that. You want to repeat that again? Because it sounds a little confusing.
Well, the last question was which ways can we show love, spiritual love?
You show spiritual love by caring for others, knowing that they are also spiritual beings, that they are also, first you have to know that you are. Once you know that you are, and that you as a spiritual being, you have a connection with the Supreme Lord, and the Lord is in your heart, He's in that person's heart. And you just treat them with kindness, and as we said, kindness and compassion and tolerance, and help them to get to know who they are as a spiritual being. That's the love, when you're helping others from a loving place, not a torrential place and criticize them and fault finding. As my Guru Bhakti Tirtha used to say, we love find, not fault find. So you have to know the love is within you and feel that love within you and feel the Lord in the heart's love helping you and guiding you and directing you. And then you share that love with others. Does that help? No
answer.
response?
No.
Okay.
He's from Dallas, Texas.
Oh,
They're
Dallas.
from
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I thank you for your question. I hope I was able to help somewhat. And this makes for more investigation, as Bhakti Tirtha Swami finished up here at the end and say we really need, he encouraged us, to investigate and go deeper. If you're studying this Vedic philosophy and teaching, keep studying, keep reading, read Bhagavad Gita, and feel the love. Krishna is there telling you who you are and how he loves you and protects you. And that love is within you, and you're to give that to others. Okay? Any other comments? Questions? All right. Once again, thank you all for being there. Have a wonderful, blessed week. Hare Krishna.